All right, guys, lots happening in the world of MMA. My friend is back in the building. Obviously, one of the best to do it. Morning Combat, his live chat, the Substack, it's all happening. Luke Thomas, thanks for joining me back here on Submission Radio.
Glad to be back. A jelly roll, by the way, not happy with you folks down there.
Why? What happened?
I saw that he went to, correct me if I'm wrong, the Louis Vuitton store in Sydney and said he was treated like a criminal. And I'm like, yeah, face tattoos will do that. They'll do that.
Yeah, well, you know, he had a nice little sing along with Alex Volkanovski.
He did have that. Yes.
Did you see this?
I did. I did see this.
How would you rate this? Let me just show this to you just quickly, and I want an out of 10 rating for this performance. Look at that. All right, guys, just taking a quick break to thank our sponsors. First up, Manscaped. Look at this white hot lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Make sure to jump on this bad boy today. 15% off with the code word submission, plus free shipping now. And you can get 15% off the entire website. I'm talking about the most comfortable underwear that you're going to wear. I'm talking about the Beard Hedger, which is what I use to make sure that my beard is in shape and ready to go for the program. And of course, you got the Weed Whacker for your nose hair too. You got all sorts of potions and lotions that get you sorted as well. Manscaped is your one-stop shop for everything that you need when it comes to your body and feeling good. Just one more time, have a look at this bad boy. Of course, you could get the different color variations as well in the black, but this is a limited edition right here that you could pick up in Manscaped today. 15% off with the code word submission. You could use it in the shower. You charge it once, put it in your bag. Doesn't go off like a vibrator, which is hopefully not an issue for you. Make sure you can use it discreetly and easily. Keep your boy smooth downstairs. Manscaped is the place to do it. So make sure to jump on right now. Support the guys right now. 15% off with a code word submission. Free shipping. Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra in the white hot, or you get the original OG black, which is also awesome. And the Beard Hedger as well. Like I said, one of my favorites out there too, the Weed Whacker. Just so many products on Manscaped that you can't say no to. It's Christmas almost around the corner. Surprise that special person in your life with some Manscaped in their life. And also, of course, the boxes are beautiful. Open these bad boys up. It's just a great gift altogether. Just have to wrap it lightly, put it under the tree. You're all sorted, and you help the program. 15% off with the code word submission. And I want to welcome back our friends at NordVPN, who are giving you the best discount off your NordVPN plan. Go to nordvpn.com/submission right now. You get an extra 4 months on the 2-year plan for free. That's right. Extra 4 months on the 2-year plan for free. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Of course, you could click the link in the description below. Try it risk-free right now with a 30-day money-back guarantee. And, of course, pick up that great deal where you get all those months for free. Of course, NordVPN, best VPN out there. And if you guys want to watch your sports, I know the NBA season is crazy right now. It's across about 25 different networks. All your favorite movies, all your favorite TV shows dispersed over about 100 different streaming platforms. What about discounts to signups for different streaming services, for different products, for travel, all sorts of stuff? You could get it cheaper by changing it to different countries. And of course, NordVPN protects your information during this Christmas period as you're shopping. Make sure no one steals your credit card information. Takes away all your information, so you got to reset all your passwords. NordVPN has you sorted. It protects you, it looks after you, and it gives you access to all of the best sports around the world. Next year, it seems like having a VPN would be a good idea to have to watch all your favorite sports all over the world. NordVPN.com has you sorted. NordVPN.com/submission right now. Pick up this deal today. Get across it now. You're not going to regret it as we go into the Christmas season with so many big sports being played and you guys having to be across about 3,000 different networks and streaming platforms to watch it. God, he's Alex Volkanovski, man, a man of talents. How would we rate this?
-8 billion. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing. Yeah, I don't know, 6, maybe a 6, right? Not bad.
Jelly Roll had the belt there, man.
Yeah. I mean, the moment was greater than a 6, but the singing, a 6. Yeah.
I still put the Diego Lopez emo song above that from the press conference. But anyway, we've got the Street Fighter movie coming out. So Alex Volkanovski is a man of many skills. Cooking, acting, singing, he can do it all. Fighting, most importantly. I'll tell you what, though, Luke, this week, had me thinking about the sport of MMA, the year that we've had. I know financially the UFC has done really, really well as they usually do, but we've had a few scandals, a few ups and downs for fans. Bad cards, obviously. There was criticisms around bad pay-per-views, bad fight nights. The price of tickets going up, so people unable to access live events. And now, obviously, this UFC scandal that just dropped this week around the Dulgarian fight that, you know, you and me have been talking about in our respective shows. What do you think the perspective right now for some fans of, you know, this might be one of the worst years for the UFC in terms of the fan experience, I guess, or the criticisms or things that have happened? It seems like it's been a pretty rough year.
It has been a rough year. And the reality is, as bad as it might have been for MMA, it's actually been much worse in boxing. Boxing also doesn't really have that many. I mean, obviously you had Canelo and Crawford, and that was great. And you know, listen, we're a week away from JDM and Islam, so that'll be nice, certainly. But in boxing, they have had very little. There's just been constantly nothing going. I honestly, I'm being serious. I've covered more MMA than boxing, but in all of my years covering boxing, this is the worst year I've ever seen. I can't necessarily say that about MMA, although, you know, because it's different, right? Like 2005 was just a different sport than 2025, you know what I mean? So like they're hard to compare. But, you know, I think fans are rightly feeling it. There is a lot of content and a lot of it doesn't seem to stand out. The premium end is nice, but the premium end doesn't happen as often or as in ways that I think would prefer. There isn't a pay-per-view star really kind of growing. Obviously, Ilya Topuria has done some amazing things, but he's not a pay-per-view attraction. I know we're getting rid of pay-per-views, but it's kind of, you know, shorthand for celebrity, right? And, you know, then these other scandals have hit. The Jones and Aspinall thing falls through. And Aspinall fails to capitalize here, which is kind of a separate thing. But like, you know, taking in totality, it's like, geez, man. And also, let's just be honest, too. Fans are getting taken for a ride. I know this is not exclusive in any way to UFC or MMA, but they're getting taken for a ride on ticket prices. Like people, these large companies, what they're doing is they're taking things that have been part of your normal experience. Some of them more important, right? It's more important to pay rent. It's more important to pay for your car. It's more important to pay for a medical bill. But they're taking the parts of ordinary life, including the more recreational parts, and they're just trying to extract as much value out of that as possible without actually making the experience any different or better. You know, so on top of it, you have these ticket prices, which we, you know, I know in Australia, this was more of a sensitive issue around the last Olberg fight, which kind of settled in once they dropped the prices and more people came. But for all these reasons, you know, fans have been taken for a ride or just not been given what they ordinarily are used to. And I think it has created a pretty detectable malaise. Now, some of these things are cyclical. Let's see what happens in 26 when they come out, you know, of the canon, so to speak, in for the Paramount era. But it's been a down year. And I think for fans who feel that way, the reasons for understanding that are not especially complex.
A lot of people that I talk to, and by the way, I know people have said, you know, there's no need to be negative, but just my experience talking to a lot of fans that used to watch the sport or used to watch it a lot is that they've tuned out. They don't really know when the cards are. They don't really know a lot of the champions, or they don't really want to talk about MMA as much because they're a little bit over certain parts of it. Obviously, we had this scandal that's happened. You did a great job of sort of recapping everything that's happened on your own channel. We saw Ariel Helwani had some updates. I had Harry Mack on, the Twitter journalist that initially broke the story, and I saw an update from him just before where he said that the FBI has raided Factory X, no arrests at this time, but they've confiscated phones and conducted interviews. So according to Harry Mack, that's what's happening. But now that you've had a few days for some of the facts to settle in, Dana's statement, UFC statement, some of Ariel's news, I guess some of Harry Mack's news about potential referees being investigated, this, that, and the other, and more fights potentially being impacted. Where does this sit for you now that it's had some time to settle in your mind and you've had some of the facts sort of come through to you?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's settled much. The problem is there is an enormous, okay, so we can believe certain things, but in terms of what we know, right, where we've got like really hardcore, verifiable, high quality forms of evidence to make judgments about things, we don't have much of that. For example, we don't even know if Dulgarian actually threw a fight. Now, obviously, what he did was suspicious, and the betting is suspicious, and so the investigation is obviously warranted. But we don't even know the answer to that. But the problem is the contagion that a situation like this has, where it just spreads all of a sudden. Not so much that we now know that, like, well, I'll come back to that. But what I mean is, people are like, well, I remember this fight 6 months ago that was really weird. Was that one fixed? And I remember this fight a year ago. That was weird. What about that judging decision? What about this referee call? It casts this shroud of suspicion over the entire product, which I think some people will look past, but some people will not. Some people will be demoralized by it. They'll say, what, am I even watching anything that's real? That's a thing that you have to kind of worry about. And to me, you know, I saw the UFC, when the UFC has competitors in the business field or they fear regulators, they really, you may have seen me make this point on my live chat. They are very buttoned up and by the book, and here's the thing. And I feel like they've gotten a little lazy with that. You know, where Dana's talking to TMZ and Jim Rome on webcams. It's like, I think this is a little more serious than what you're showing, what you should be showing, as a matter of fact. People say, oh, you don't want to give too much. I think it's the opposite. I think you would want to show that. But the reality is, you know, and again, people in this country, I don't know. I'm told that the political differences are different. The political differences in Australia are relative to the U.S. enough that this may not apply there necessarily. But certainly in this country, this is like an extraordinarily right-wing sport. People got mad at me for saying it's not really up for debate. But, you know, you've got in this particular case, not so much the UFC being used for political aims or ambitions, but rather these relationships to the people in the highest levels of government. Like, do I really think that they're going to take this situation as seriously as they would, or, you know, follow the rabbit hole no matter where it goes as a consequence, in the same way that they grandstanded about the NBA betting scandal? I obviously do not. So again, it's just one of these things where it's like the product is being, it's feels like death by 1,000 cuts. It could be cyclical. It may not be that big of an issue, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is we just need a lot more information. There is so much that seems unclear, and because of that, you don't know what's up or down. And we need more information to really understand where the problem is, how big is it, and what's being done to address it. And right now, we have some of that, but mostly just rumor mongering and suspicion.
It sounds like to me Dana White is trying to make a big example out of Dulgarian here for everybody else on his roster to say, you know, you do something wrong, the FBI is coming up after you. But it's just so ridiculous to have basically this man sitting cage side for the fight as it's happening. Like, it's just
he's the one investigating. It's like,
it's
really?
a mess, man. It's like Curb Your Enthusiasm. And then the week before that, we have like Tom Aspinall with the eye poke, and that fight obviously gets called off. So people are pissed off already about that. Then you get this. It's like, what else can happen in the sport? I had RDR on yesterday talking for the first time since his loss, and I saw people in the comments there being like, well, he threw the fight. So it's like what you said. It takes a million years to build people's respect and sort of, you know, the way that they believe in the sport and everything that it's done. And it just takes 2 seconds to now create this doubt. Every time we're going to have a weird fight, now everyone's going to say it's thrown. I mean, it just, like you said, death by 1,000 cuts. But I was going to say as well, speaking of Tom Aspinall on the previous weekend, Jon Jones decided to chime in on a podcast, and he had this to say. I want to get your take on it. He said, Tom's a great athlete, but I do feel like he's a one-trick pony. I believe that his wrestling and jiu-jitsu is incredibly overrated. He has a beautiful 1-2 combination. I've got to learn a lot about his patterns in his first fight. That's really about it. And he went on to say some stuff about how Cyril was getting into the zone and how, you know, he was setting up things real nice. But do you think there's any merit to Jon Jones's criticism of Tom Aspinall, who we believe was a very well-rounded and pretty dangerous in a lot of different areas?
I mean, it's just very funny. You can say stuff like this, and this is the guy you ducked in the worst duck of all time. Like, what the fuck? It's hard not to laugh. It's hard not to laugh. It's hard not to laugh. I'm being dead serious. It's hard not to laugh. You know, where it's like, okay, on the merit of what Jon is saying, could he be right? Yes. Yes, he could be right. The argument about why Tom was supposed to fight Jon, or right, actually vice versa, why Jon was supposed to fight Tom, was that Tom was the guy. He was the interim champion. He was the one that had done the best work to that point and seemed like, you know, a credible threat. But the argument was not, oh, we just know for a fact that Tom is way better than Jon. We know he's going to beat him. That was, some people made that argument, but it was never my argument. My argument was it was an intriguing fight and that maybe Tom could win it. But that's really not why it had to happen. It had to happen for the other reasons. That's why you have to have it. And we don't know much about Tom. Like, we don't know hardly any. We still don't know much about Tom. You know, it's actually kind of a bit of a problem. But some of the things we have seen is his defense is not great. He overly relies on athleticism. And the truth is that can actually be very successful at heavyweight, where, you know, having distinct athletic advantages just means a lot. But, you know, could Jon be right that he's a bit of a one-trick pony? He could absolutely be right. It's just like, dude, you're not the guy to make this argument. You ran from this guy as hard as possible to the tune of 30 million, a purse that either we may never see again, and there was no purse that size before it. Like, sit this one out, player. You know what I mean? What?
Yeah, he also went on to say that Tom Aspinall is a quitter. He's saying that with Curtis Blades, he didn't try to limp. With this, he didn't try to blink. He just believes that he immediately looks for the way out.
Yeah, I mean, let me just say something. And I know this is a weird thing that people say that I never get. People will be like, oh, you know, not everyone says this. Okay, so this is not like a universal statement. But like what I hear is sometimes being like, oh, you know, Tom was poked in the eye and he would never quit like that, or where he thought like, you know, he was losing and now he wants to take a way out. And I want to be clear, I take Tom at face value. If he says, not every time, I mean, obviously if other facts are revealed, then we can change the opinion. But, you know, as a general rule, if a guy gets like poked in the eye like that in the middle of a fight and is like, I can't see, I tend to believe them, right? But like, as a general proposition, being like, oh, well, he would never quit after he just saw that the fight wasn't going great and wanted out. Why? Why would he not do that? Oh, well, they're too tough to do that. Yeah, but they're rational actors. And at the highest level, they're the most rational versions of any fighters that you get. Point I'm trying to make is we already build in surrender into fights more generally and more naturally. Like, for example, tapping with jiu-jitsu, but in other ways too, where, you know, corner can throw a towel, or how about St. Pierre getting bombed on by Matt Serra, turning over on the mat and then tapping it? He quit. Right now, again, he's under quite literal assault at that moment. That's different than getting an eye poke. So the situations are not all the same. But the point I'm trying to make is people try to make this argument that folks would never do that, because if you did that, it would set you up for future failure. And what I'm going to say is, when you're a young athlete or an athlete that's beginning to really, you know, come into his or herself, you definitely want to treat and teach them that quitting in that kind of way is just, you know, unacceptable. But in the real world, I have seen athletes quit, get a second crack at something, and then just be successful at it. Like this idea that it's like a death sentence, a thing they would never do because, you know, it would portend all the bad things that would happen in their career. This is just some fucking fantasy and lie we tell each other. It's not real. Yes, there can be cases where someone, if they don't show enough grit, then in future cases, someone puts it on them and then they don't have the same kind of attitude. That's a thing that can happen, yes. It can also happen that a rational actor, and I'm not saying it happened in this case, but I'm just sort of theorizing, it can also be the case that this guy knew that the fight wasn't going great. He got poked in the eye, and maybe he could have kept going, but he decided, I'm going to refight this battle a little bit later, and then he might end up winning. That is absolutely something that is on the table, and if it actually happened, would not surprise me in the slightest. So I just want to be clear about, like, you know, oh, he, you know, did he quit? Did he not? He might have, and I'm not sure that matters yet.
I think that my take is him quit. I think for him, quitting is one of the worst things that he could, like, if he could have continued, he would have continued. I think for him, not being able to fight on, right? If he could have fought on, he would, because obviously there's the eye poke. Even if Cyril won, we've got an inbuilt excuse as to maybe why the fight didn't pan out. We could go back to the eye poke. He hadn't been active in a long time. I think if Tom Aspinall could have fought, he would have fought. But it's just one of those situations. He couldn't fight. And by the way, that's probably the worst outcome for him, not being able to fight in terms of fans' perception and everything. You know what I mean? Let's say he goes back out there, can't see, and loses. We'd be like, well,
but I'm just not one of these guys that's like, oh, well, he, you know, a guy of that caliber would never do that. I'm like, that's the caliber that's most likely to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Anyway.
most likely to think through the situation and say, what's the smart play here? Why would they not take that? It's just foolish to think that that's at least not on the table. Anyway.
And then also, why would he want to do the worst case scenario of not the anyway?
Right.